Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Baby Girl 91580 in Games Lord, and we're doing a video today to talk about the Saints Row franchise. First off, I would like to say that I'm a huge fan of the Saints Row franchise. I've played part 1, 2, and 3, and I enjoyed all of them. But I want to talk about all of the Saints Row here. I want to talk about part 1. Now, with part 1, I'm not sure. I know part one only came out on 360, so it was branded at first as a Grand Theft Auto knockoff. Yeah, and I wasn't at the point. I wasn't really too sure if it was a Grand Theft Auto knockoff because I at that point in time I had never played the San Andreas. So
Yeah, since it was a brand new franchise coming out on the heels of what San Andreas that had just came out on Xbox and PlayStation in a couple years before that. So everybody, the first thing that was gonna come out is, oh, they jocking off Grand Theft. They trying to be like Grand Theft, and I even thought that way.
okay,
But after you really do play the game, and you see that it wasn't just following on Grand Theft's heels, it was trying to be something else besides Grand Theft. Yeah, they used some of the common tools that Grand Theft used, like, gang fights and you being a gang member and trying to work your way back up and stuff. Little details like that, but they broke the mold against Grand Theft when they showed that Grand Theft wants to emulate life. We want you to have fun with life.
so that's what Saints Row.
And then that's where you start getting the zaniness of Saints Row, the activities that they put in, like stuff like insurance fraud. Like, for instance, a game like Saints Row, pretty much any game that uses ragdoll physics, you're going to laugh.
Yeah.
Because when the characters are getting tossed around like that, it's going to take you completely away from the whole seriousness of anything. And when you playing insurance fraud and you getting knocked around by cars, or when you're being chased by gangs trying to snatch their hoes and you hitting people and they flying around in the air and it's just so much going on at one time, it's the fun factor that was brought into the game. Now, that's something to me where Saints Row separated itself from Grand Theft. Grand Theft has always been a good game, a simulator, more or less, for life. Whereas Saints Row, they want you to get in this the sandbox of life and have fun with this whole thing.
Okay.
They don't want you to take it too seriously.
Okay, because like with part one, there was some very serious moments with part one. Also, you really couldn't technically connect with your character on part one because on part one you did have the chance to create your character, but your character really didn't speak throughout the whole series. I think your character probably talked like twice or something.
Yeah, like
It was
3 times.
yeah. So there really was no connection with your character other than that's the person that you're controlling and that's it. You really built with part one. I really feel that they built up characters with your friends.
Yeah.
Within part one, and the story on part one, which was you were going against three gangs, which was the Carnales, the Rollers, and the Vice Kings. Those were your three areas and gangs that you had to take over, and it was very fun doing their missions. The story, the writing for the story was really good, and but at times with part one, it became more of a chore than actually being fun. Like that last Carnales mission
At the airport.
at the airport was
irritation.
annoying. That was very annoying. It
There
was.
are some gameplay designs within that game where, okay, I see what you were trying to do, but in essence, it doesn't work in mission structure. For one, you don't want a computer AI driving a car for you that's going to go a set route.
A
because
route that didn't even make sense.
yeah, it made no
Because
sense
he like
whatsoever.
passed the plane that we was
Yeah,
supposed to be shooting
the-
like 4 times.
Yeah, the guy passes the objective that you're trying to hit so many dang on times.
But it's because
it's all catering towards they want you to ride around this little area while people are shooting rockets at you to give you a feeling of suspense and challenge where it ultimately just turns into crap and irritation. Where along the points of if you don't complete this mission, there is a minute and a half long segment that you have to drive back to the area every time you fail.
From the
and
hood.
you cannot pass it. You have to do it every time. So it ramped up the irritation factor at that point. Also, some of the activities with the game like Saints Row that's so wild, they have a thing where they create enemies on the spot. And when the computer can create enemies on the spot, it tends not to know limits. And when you get a certain star ranking, those things are going to be everywhere. And it's just absolute mayhem. It's too ridiculous to do anything on the game. Half the time you can't even accomplish what you're trying to do. Like, half the activities, once you got to levels 7, it was just like almost no damn way you're going to complete those things. 7 and 8 was just the most irritating levels of all activities ever. Except insurance fraud.
Except, yeah, insurance fraud.
Insurance fraud has to be the one activity that was like fun, pound for pound, regardless. Even if you didn't make the objective and you had to do the whole activity over again, it was still fun watching the people just get hit by cars and things like that. Now, when you got a fun factor built into an activity like that, people won't care how crazy it get. But like with the hoeing activities and just the drug trafficking, when those stars and those notoriety rankings hit, it almost makes the game absolutely impossible to play and unbearable.
You have to actually literally spend hours doing it, okay? Now, with in the Carnales mission, that wasn't the only one that was like that on part 1 with the S4 story mission that got annoying, because you know what, the rollers, that mission for the rollers on part 1 was annoying as hell.
Yeah.
For one, there is no co-op on part 1, so you basically, when you do drive and shoot, if you don't have anyone with you, they're gonna shoot for you like your companions. But I don't think you could take anyone with you on that last mission. So you have to try to drive, keep control of your car, and shoot this semi truck, a moving semi truck, down the freeway. You have to shoot these cars off the truck, and then you can shoot the truck. But while all of this is going on, you have gang members coming from behind you, shooting you. It was just a lot to try to accomplish all on your own. Now,
when the game can just spawn somewhere right there in front of you, it's going to make it 10 times harder. It's like, how can you even try to do this when y'all can create a person anywhere that's going 9 times out of 10 shoot my car up, and then it's going to blow up. Then I have to find another car just to keep up with the truck that I'm supposed to be shooting cars off of.
But then if the truck gets too far out of range,
then you fail.
Then you fail and have to start all over again. So part 1, I really liked it. It was a good introduction to a series of games. But like, we're going to get to part 2 now, because this is where I really feel that they did not drop the ball with part 2.
Part 2, they nailed it.
They nailed it completely. They improved everything from instead of having 8 missions for each activity, it went from 8 to 6, and they gave you more activities.
Right,
also.
They brought in new activities.
They brought in the Fuzz. They brought in Septic Avenger. They brought in Crowd Control. Fight Club, right. Trailblazing. I love Trailblazing. And then they did the most awesome thing and put co-op into the whole story mode, which is that is great, because that's one thing that Grand Theft Auto does not do. They want you to play it on your own. I like to I'm not a big
Multiplayer
person. You know, I don't like getting online. I shoot you, you shoot me, and then it all starts over again. I actually like to experience the stories with my friends and play through the story with my friends, and that is just awesome. So these missions, once you have help from your friends, they are not so much of a chore, especially when the game has that cheating factor of like Games Lord said, where it can just like drop anything out of the damn sky on you. Cars, I have literally just seen a police car just spawn out of nowhere right in front of me. You know, just like boom, I'm here. Just because they could do it with part two. But with part two, so they added new activities, they shortened them
Now,
also.
mind you, that spawning factor did not go away. The computer still, at some points of the game, when you get a lot of ranking, a lot of notoriety, it will start to spawn enemies everywhere. Now, not as terrible as part one was. You can actually get through some of these things, but part two does have points where the computer has made so much go on that it's gonna freeze up on you. Sometimes I even believe that the computer is devious enough to make the game freeze up on you after you've completed certain missions and things, just because you didn't save it yet, and now you got to go and do it all over again.
Okay, but at the same time, with part
It's the
two,
devil.
with part two, even though they are able to just spawn things, it made it easier
Yeah.
that you had co-op, because then you actually had someone to help
Yeah.
you. It's not just you against the AI.
But
It's
yeah,
it's you and a friend, and you can sometimes trick the AI like me and a friend did just recently when we were going for the diversion achievement. I may just do a whole nother video on that for people who are having trouble with that diversion achievement for part two. But that's going to be a whole nother video within itself. But with that said, also with Saints Row 2, they expanded.
that I think Saints Row 2 was probably like the best part of the franchise, because it seemed like, one, they had a nice starting board, and two, they just evolved everything that was on part one.
Including the world.
Yeah, big, like it was. You had a big map in part one, very detailed. Also, part two, it only got bigger and more detailed. Not to mention, even the storytelling from part two got better, because the whole story of part two picks up from a plot twist that happened at the end of part one.